All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This is a chance for us to get together as folks who are working in elementary schools. In the past, I've set up these meetings so that it's for both elementary and middle school, but there are so many moving parts this year that I wanted to make sure that you have the chance to focus just on things that you need without having to worry about what's going on at the middle school. They have their own time set aside. I met with them yesterday. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of the year. So focus on elementary information only. So as you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. It's being monitored. Sarah Wallner will be monitoring that and we'll jump in if there's anything. I'm also going to have some time for questions as we go. So if you have a question, hang on, and when I ask for them, jump in. I appreciate the work that's gone into all of the assessments. There's a lot of changes, a lot of things going on. I appreciate your insight, sharing with me some things. I've really focused on trying to get you information. But please know that the people who are on this meeting are also really valuable peers. And so things that they create, ideas that they have, you may want to share amongst each other. So please make sure that you're open to questions from other staff members, because it really benefits all of us. So with that, I am going to jump in and we're going to get started on the meeting. So I am going to just again welcome you. So again, the purpose is really for us to meet, to get questions answered, to see what the questions are. Sarah and I spend all day with assessments. So we don't know what the questions are because you spend your day with people. We're kind of isolated at some time, so it's really important for us to hear from you as well as sharing information with each other. So we're better when we work together. And again, make sure that you do talk to each other, whether it's through chat now or just as you see people that are online. If you are a brand new assessment coordinator, let me know. I will certainly be willing to meet with you one-on-one, schedule that. You have lots of peers here who are on this Zoom meeting who are experienced in giving assessments, not necessarily the ones that we're all going to be working on this year together, but they know the rhythm and flow of how things work. So please don't hesitate to reach out to each other. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the resources again. So those of you who are new to this, we're going to focus on our Office of Assessment Administration website. We're going to spend time with FastBridge AUTOreading, looking at the details of that, and then also some of the resources. We're going to be looking at aReading and aMath. And then we're going to be taking a look at what's the best time to schedule meetings for you. So I've got some ideas, looking at some office hours that I'm going to be hosting. And again, I can meet with individuals. It does make sense if there's a small group of people to get together in a meeting to be able to address some of the same issues. So the OAA website, I refer to this fondly as the purple wall. We're going to jump to that live, and I'm going to minimize this so we can just see this. So there's a lot of information here. So if you ever feel like there's information overload, I get it. One of the things I want to point to, first of all, is when you get to this page, first of all, it's assessment.madison.k12.wi.us. You can find it by going to Departments and clicking on Assessments. We're the second one. We're going to focus on elementary, this particular bar right here. I want to start with the elementary information. because that's where today's information is located. We, in the past, have had assessment calendars up. We will probably do that in the near future, but make sure that we get that there. And that's so you can add things, add meetings. Once we schedule meetings, we'll put it on the calendar. You can simply click on here and add it to your own calendar. This is what I want to point out, the coordinator meetings for 2021. And we're in September, so by clicking on that, you get all the resources for today's meeting. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint, it's right here. If you want a copy of the agenda, which I also put into the invite, meeting invite, you'll find it here. Here are the resources that we will have available to us today. We're specifically focused on FastBridge and moving through these items. Just a reminder that the email address to get to folks who are specifically focused on FastBridge is FAST, F-A-S-T, at madison.k12.wi.us. There are about 5 or 6 of us who are included in that. That includes both Sarah and myself. It includes folks from Student Services and from Integrated Supports and Assessment for Learning. So we've got a bunch of people who can, if we don't know the answer, we can certainly find it for you. So that's a good email address to remember. And it goes to all of our email. Our goal is to get your questions resolved within 24 hours. If we can't, we'll let you know that this is going to take some digging into. So again, I'm just going to back out. So this is found under the elementary information. Scroll to the bottom, the coordinator meetings, and yes, I will fix the date. So also, if you see something on the website that is, I made a mistake, let me know. I need some support with that sometime. So, and again, to this page. So I am going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to continue. Okay, so here's where we left off. Again, this site, we put all kinds of things out there. Digging around a little bit later, we'll be putting data use protocols out there for FastBridge assessments. Right now, we're really focused on ensuring that we get the assessments accomplished. Once that's done, the key piece here that we're looking at this year is not just doing the assessment. We're assessing for a reason. We're assessing to make sure that we understand where students are at and where we can take them, what are the next steps. So the data is really important for instructional purposes, whereas the MAP suite of assessments got used in ways that were not necessarily focused on instruction. By the way, MAP is gone. We're not doing MAP this year. So as far as I know, that's it. But we're focused on making sure that our assessments are important for classroom and for practices. I am sure that you're all familiar with the FastBridge website. So I just want to take a look at different ways of logging in. So some of the questions out there have been, what about how do students log in? How does staff log in? And how do we get them in that information? So we're working with tech services on using ClassLink. So in theory, someday, if everything works, students and staff will be looking for this particular icon. Hang on just a second, I will. So we're going to be looking for this icon right in the ClassLink, on that ClassLink page. So students have this really already. It should be set up for them, so all students should be able to see that right now. So if they don't, here is the address. If you click this, it'll take you to the login page of FastBridge. Students will need to have a username and a password. It's not their MMSD login and password. That is why we can't have this work as a single sign-on immediately. Staff members, if you have rostered students to you, so instance, you have a class list, you will have this same icon on your class link page. If you don't, I want to show you just right now how you can go about adding that tile to your page. So let me end this, and we will go and share, take another view. All right, so on this page, this is my class link page. You can see that I've got all kinds of tiles, and for things to log into, and that I can do as a single sign-on. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice that there's a plus sign. This is the app library. So by clicking here, I can see all the different apps that are not on my page. I'm going to click on Madison Metropolitan Schools, and here you will have the FastBridge non-SSO. So it's not a single sign-on link, but it would look like this to begin with. So you would end up going and clicking on Add for the FastBridge, and it will add it to your page. Mine is added here at the bottom. So if I click on this, guess what? It takes me right to the login page. So again, it's not single sign-on, it's very close. Let's see, I did notice that we had some questions. Yeah, we are, so let me just tell you about the future of this whole entire piece. Right now we're working with Illuminate, which is the company that owns FastBridge, and we are working on getting this to a point where we can actually have a single sign-on. The sooner we get that done, the better. We don't know when to expect that, but it is in the works, and it's an issue that the vendor knows about and would like to correct. The final way for staff, of course, is to bookmark the FastBridge.org link, and that again will take you to the sign-on page. Okay, professional learning modules. You'll notice that, well, you've been involved with professional learning modules, some of you for longer than others. And each of the modules contains 8 different components. It's very similar between aReading and AUTOreading and early reading and aMath. They all contain this. It's pretty much the same process. They have a quiz, certification quiz. Now, the question has come up, what about the certification? So, certification, let me go back, sorry. Certification is critical. It's really important because we want to ensure that the time you're taking, the time the student is taking away from other interactions is valuable. If the data is not something that we can trust, then it's not worth our time doing this. This data, again, I'll continue to say this all year. This data is designed to help drive instruction. It's help improve what happens for each and every child. So it is very important that staff take a look at this, not only look at it, but do the module and become certified. Certification is not a one-shot deal. If you attempt certification and you get less than I believe it's 90%, then it'll say, no, you didn't pass. You can go back and do the different portions of the module that you knew you need to do all over again. It will tell you which ones you've gotten wrong. So it's not like it's a secret, and really what it is trying to ensure that you can give the assessment in a very valid and reliable way. Now, I've had some questions about FastFlix. Excellent resource, excellent resource. I would say, I would urge you to focus on the modules that you need to do. So the welcoming and the getting started, so kind of place, give you context, and then really dive into the how to actually give this. The remote learning module is also a very important piece. The FastFlix includes how to use the data. So this can be done. It's designed for actually a team of teachers to use with someone who can facilitate it. So there is a lesson plan, and it lays out how to go about using FastFlix to understand the data, to know where to find it, to understand what some of the protocols are. And we're going to be building that out as a district in a much more robust way than where we're at right now. And again, the focus right now is on the assessment, giving the assessment, and we'll start building out the data piece in just briefly. So, yes, okay. Great question. Let me go back to ensuring how you find out who is done. So I'm going to log into FastBridge. Let me change my sharing. This is my screen, not too much different than yours. I'm going to select specialist view. So the specialist view, you are given the specialist permission set essentially goes through all the students, looks at all the students in the school or the school that you're assigned to. If you work in multiple buildings, you'll be able to see multiple schools. If you don't have this and you need it, please let Sarah or I know. Email fast@, and that we'll get on that. You'll notice that you're in a specialist setting, and then we'll go into the reporting so that you can see this. As a specialist, you can see certification report. All right, and by clicking on that, I'm going to go to, sorry, Alice, you're first. You always get this. So I'm going to continue to do that. It will update with a pie chart of who has done aReading and AUTOreading. Green being the certified, and the tan being those who are not certified. Now, clicking on this, you get to see who is certified, who is not. Here's a caveat. Please be aware that this is everyone who has access to your school's data. So central office staff are listed. So as you can see right now, that OMGE, student services. So here we go. Here is Alice at kindergarten and 1. You can see who has and who has not completed the modules. So that should take care of finding out who is finished and who is not. Now, I want to tell you that I am not going to be knocking on people's virtual doors saying, you need to complete this. It's something that I will, if I find that there are a lot of staff at a school that are not completing it, I will let you know as a coordinator. I will also let the principal know. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe you've set things up in a different way. I just need to know that. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page there. Also, if you're new to this, you scroll down, you'll have a to-do list. And boy, have I got to-do lists. these are going to be shared, that information is going to be shared with you on a regular basis out of our office, out of the team that's supporting FastBridge. Don't worry about those. So, okay, I'm going to jump back. I'll be back here in just a moment to share this particular screen. And so that's how you look at it and can find out who is completed the modules and who has not. All right, so let's just talk about auto reading for a few minutes. We're going to go back and take a look at how to generate usernames and passwords, etc., in a few moments. So we have students all over the district who are in a variety of locations and who will need to be screened at a variety of times. I completely understand that. Headsets, headphones, earbuds are not necessarily a requirement, but it really helps students focus. So if they are available, they should be using that. The alternative would be in a quiet setting away from all kinds of distractions, but we know that that's a very difficult thing as well. Okay, I'm seeing some chats come in. Hang on, we'll get to some of those questions in a little bit. Thank you, Kurt, I appreciate it. So you can see what the subtests are that are going to be done in each of the seasons at each of the grades. So this is provided that we are in a virtual environment. If we're back face-to-face, even in a hybrid environment, it will look different. So given that, you can see what there will be 3 for first grade and 2 for kindergarten. First and second grade will do all the same. Okay. Now, if you are a dual language immersion school or a DBE school, OMG has been reaching out, been working with staff on what happens in this situation, because auto reading, unfortunately, is only in English. So this is for auto reading, is for ELI only. ELI and DBE will be doing this synchronously in this, the given environment, whether that's Seesaw. I believe that's what everybody is going to be using. So this takes a little bit more effort because it's sharing a screen. What I'm going to do, and I've been asked by several of you and by some in leadership, is I'm going to create a video that actually runs through this kind of an assessment setup, so you can see how it's done and ensure that there is something that you're able to actually look at to see how this actually works. So I realize that there's a lot of moving parts, and so I want to make sure that we have the resources available, that people are, I'm not going to say comfortable, but less anxious about what it is that we're working on. Okay. I'm going to pause here for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see what's up. So Sarah, is there anything in the chat that I need to address right now? Or is anybody? Go ahead.
There are a couple questions in the chat that I think are awesome questions that I don't know the answer to, so I'm going to bump them to you.
Okay.
One is about auto-saving on Chrome for student usernames and passwords. Is it on a lockdown browser? Is that going to be could that be a possibility? Currently,
I don't think it's going to be a possibility, simply because there's too many protocols. If students are logging in via class link, there's too many things that are going on behind the scenes to be able to make that work. It's certainly something that can be tried, but I would not necessarily recommend. I'd try it with, if you have a willing and sample student who would want to do that, I would certainly try it, but I don't think it's going to work. That's a great idea, and I'll actually take that to tech services, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Want me to keep reading to you from the chat?
Please.
Okay, cool. Another one. I thought it said 2 to 4 subtests for auto reading. I can only see 3.
Yep, and the 4 is if you're higher up in higher grade levels. So there will only be 3, so 2 for kindergarten, 3 for first and second graders. Even though it says 2 to 4, that's truth in advertising, but not for these grades.
Can all K through 5 ELI be done without the teacher at the same time?
Great question. I'll have to look into that. I honestly don't know. And then I'm seeing Sarah's question, do we need to send home anything to complete the tests? And I know that Jane had a question about the letters. So we've got, so if you are involving an adult, and we'll talk about that in just a little, because I have questions for you. If you're involving an adult in supporting the instruction where the child is, then yes, they do need to have something that they can actually read from, and there are brief scripts, and so there are 3 or 4 different letters based on the grade and what assessment. So if you're doing auto reading, there's a letter that has a script in it with screenshots of you'll see this and this and this. Read this to the student, etc. If you are, it can also be done, auto reading can also be done by a teacher on Zoom, just like this, supporting students. I would say make sure that students we'll talk about logins and easy passwords in just a few minutes, but we want to make sure that you can watch your students as they are actually involved in the assessment. The DLI and DBE assessments, there is a separate letter for that, and that is also posted, and all of these are in translation. It should be done really shortly. I'm sorry, but I'm posting that on our website in the appropriate FastBridge headings on the website as we go. All the letters on the staff only side, so that you have to log into, are in both PDF form and a Word document. So if you want to pull apart, an assessment letter, you certainly can. Sarah, the question, are we expecting parents to be involved in this? That is one option. That's one way of doing it. It may not, especially for the younger students, it may not be the best way at all in order to do this. It may work in some cases, but I would say that what impact does that have on standardization? Let me just tell you that no one has been through this. So no one has assessments that are normed for all virtual administration. And so these are great questions. We're going to try really hard to do our best, but we know that there are going to be technical issues. We know that there are going to be scheduling issues. We know that we're going to be having kids who are struggling with this. We know that we're going to have teachers who are struggling with this. So we're going to take it one step at a time. We're going to use the data. The screeners that we're using to begin with are designed to start that instructional conversation, and these are not things that we're going to be saying, oh, on your report card you got, you didn't do well on your auto reading. That's not the point of this. So the point is to serve as a screener, and you're right, standardization can become an issue. As far as students completion, you should be able to see the data on the reports at the end of an assessment day. So you'll actually be able to see who is completed and who is not. I will ensure that you have a how to check who's finished document. So as we all learn this, we all need to make sure that we're able to do this together. So I will post that on the page as soon as I get that. I'll let you know. as well. I think I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint. We're about halfway through our, okay. Thank you, Linda. So Seesaw is going to be used for DLI, DBE, but Zoom will be used for auto reading. Makes sense, because auto reading is going to be, tends to be something that can be done in a larger group setting. All right, so let's go back and talk about aReading and aMath. These are adaptive assessments. They can be paused. I'm not sure. Those of you who are involved with MAP assessments, we knew that it was 21 days, I believe, or it was 28 calendar days. I have not found anything that said how long this can be paused. But it's certainly, my understanding is that it can be paused for at least a day. Did we get somebody? I can address that filtering issue in just a little bit. We'll go back in. It takes approximately 30 minutes to complete these questions. There are about 30 questions roughly. It is not timed, so that is important to know as well. Okay. Things about accommodations. We'll take a look at this. We'll talk about EL supports in just a moment, and then we'll take a look at how to get a hold of tickets and also about those reports. So again, headsets are really important if you're in a setting that is not conducive to focused on a test. Especially true for those students who have accommodations. Headsets or earbuds will work just fine. Student-owned material, it will work. It doesn't have to be from MMSD. That is something that we're struggling with, is how do we get headsets to students? And I know that TJ McCrae and his team has been working on this, so I can get that information out to you as well. Depending on the assessment, some are timed, some are not. For instance, auto reading, there's approximately about 6 seconds between when the voice says the word water and I as a student have to pick which one of the 3 words on the screen is water. There's a visual clues. It goes from a green halo around each of the boxes to a yellow to a red. As far as I understand, that time cannot be changed on auto reading. So I will check into that again, but that is something that is not possible for auto reading. It will just go to the next one, but that will also increase student frustration. So I'll check into that and get that posted as well. Obviously, extra breaks, that pausing the test is important, and then magnification is also a possibility. So, English learner supports. As far as the early reading component in grades K1, 2, we know that is going to be done through Seesaw with the DLI students. The auto reading for those students who are able to do that, working with folks in OMGE, the consensus was, and I will double check whether this is just aReading or if it's both aReading and auto reading. So the oral composite on access, if it's 3.0 or below, is something that will trigger an exemption from this. So in the past, our assessments have been a 2.0 or lower on either WIDA screener or on access, and then they were exempt from taking the ELA portion of the test. This is different. This is a 3.0. So we've already had a question from one school saying, I have what seems to be a lot of students who are exempt. Well, the number is going to look different than what you've had in the past. So please make sure that you keep that in mind. Ask the question. Please, by all means, ask the question. And we will make sure that we get an answer to you. But if you're wondering about who should and who should not, based on their ELA scores, should they be testing, this is what OMG is determined is the cutoff for that. Okay, I saw some questions out there. I want to pause here before we jump to the next screen, simply because I know these are some big issues. So I will jump back. Okay, and here we go. So Sarah, you asked about flexibility. Again, these scores are really not determining placement. They're not determining whether or not a student is qualified for an IEP. This is simply about instructionally where they are. Excuse me. So if you have a student who is, excuse me, lower than a 3.0 and you think that the frustration level is not going to be reached, I would say that that would be okay. I would not urge you to do it. But if you have a learner who is really working hard and is making progress, then yes, you can do that. Okay, excuse me, I'm gonna just get a drink here. I've been talking way too much. Okay, so let's go. If there are no other questions, I did see the comment on giving students their individual passwords, etc. We're going to go to that right next. So let's do that.
Hey, Tim, real quick before we go on, there are a couple of related questions that did pop up.
Okay.
One being, does OMG have any guidance on what different types of screeners could be used for those students who are exempt? I don't know if for the three.
That's a great question.
And then related is, does that exemption, is the access score of not needing to take just for kids in ELI, or does it also extend to DLI?
Well, okay, so if DLI is in grades K1, 2, they're going to be approaching things a little bit differently. So they will be, so that exemption would not count. Because they're actually using the early reading Spanish and CBM reading Spanish for that. Now, obviously, there are other languages that if they are not Spanish speaking, for instance, they're Arabic speaking, and they are level 3 or lower, then yes, I would say that would include an exemption. Even for auto reading, so for the littlest ones. 3, 4, 5, when you get to that level and we're talking about aReading, again, I would say that this exemption is pretty solid, but we can continue to have conversations about it with OMGE and what other options there are. So sorry, wandering a little bit. Other questions?
One last one is related as well. What about kinders who don't have an oral composite? Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but those kindergartners who are being identified right now, if they have a score from the remote screener, which is going on in all of your buildings right now, we can use that. Otherwise, if they don't, I know your teams are working hard on that, so it could be a scenario in which you're just holding off on this screener until there's a chance for them to be screened. I know there are so many people working really hard on getting these students identified right now. So we have scores for a lot of kids, but this might be a good version of you just hold on that particular group of kids until you can get a screener score in place for them. Tim, does that sound right?
Right, yes. Now, keep in mind that even though the window opens on Monday, this is not a requirement that you do testing on Monday or that first week. You may schedule it, but there's not a requirement. So the WIDA screening process is, we're finding, takes roughly 2 weeks. By the time the student is identified, the whole language survey is completed, we have to physically mail out test material to them, and that happens several days a week, but not every day. It takes a week for them to get that, and then you have to schedule a phone call, a video conference call, or a phone call. So it's about 2 weeks. We're believing that it takes about 2 weeks to go through that process. That is well within the window that we have as opportunity for the screener. So if the student, you take the WIDA screener and you end up with a 4, then they are certainly welcome to jump in and take this screener, so you know approximately where they're at. Again, thinking instructionally about this data. So, okay, I am going to continue, and I know that this next one, there are going to be a lot of ways of doing this. So I know this came from an email from someone who is on. I appreciate it that you have thought about this, because there are a lot of ways of doing this. One way is not going to work for everybody in every classroom. So here is one way of thinking about the process. Connecting with the student's parent or child care provider and sharing with them the ID and password and how to get to this. I know that I just had a meeting with the chiefs, that there are students, we have a lot of students who are in the MSCR CARES program, and we're going to be working out a way of making sure that they also have the opportunity to assess. It may not be when your school's grade 2 staff are actually doing the test. It may not be in that particular week or that time frame, but we will ensure that they are all given that opportunity to assess. So yes, when this particular step 1 says parent or child care provider or adult, we want to make sure that there are lots of different ways that this will happen. So the next step might be to how you get into ClassLink, or excuse me, FastBridge from ClassLink. So you will need to do the step 1 first, because the students will need to have their username and password. Step 2, you can do this via Seesaw or Zoom, however you want to do that, to share this information, share your screen, walk them through it. Here's something that we could potentially do a video of. Do a parent meeting to show parents where to find FastBridge in ClassLink. So short, 30 seconds. Parents, when you look at your student's Chromebook, here's what you look for. And you could share that, so that doesn't have to be something that is done by every teacher for every single parent at asynchronously, or excuse me, synchronously in multiple times. You need to then log in and take the sections that are assigned to them. I'm working on decreasing the number of assessments that are available, because they come up in tiles. So when a student logs in, all the assessments that are available for the students at that grade level in that school are there. I'm trying to reduce the number of tiles so it's only aReading, aMath, AUTOreading for them. And finally, if they're unable to do it on Zoom or on their own, can you do a sharing screen and set that up and work with the student? And the answer is yes, you can certainly do that. Again, I'm going to be creating a video on how to do that and actually run through it. So, chat, questions. Yes, you're right. Spanish, Nicole, thank you. Spanish, LI, DBE are not taking aMath. So that should drop it down one level of anxiety. So, okay. So keep in mind that there are multiple ways, and if you want to bounce some ideas off from each other or share with me, I'll be happy to connect with you and kind of troubleshoot, or just simply bounce ideas off from each other to ways you can do this. Okay, the moment you've been waiting for. How to get tickets. There is a document on the website for this particular meeting that is the full version of what you see here on the screen. This is how to get student login and password information for aReading, AUTOreading, and aMath. Virtually any of the FastBridge pieces. Keep in mind that only specialists can do this. So a teacher who has a class user privilege set will not be able to do this. However, CC teachers, coaches, principals, everybody who's got a specialist permission set can do this. Let's take us through and actually do what this looks like. Go through and I'll share my screen and walk you through what it looks like for this. So I'm going to minimize that. Okay. All right, specialist screen, here we are. You know you're on it. This is your home page. Over on the left-hand side, you will have the ability to get student passwords. Because, let's say, I'm just going to pick on our friends at Alice again. And I'm going to say, we're going to look at grade 3. So grade 3, here are my staff members. So I can look for each one of them. You'll notice that on the screen right now, I have information. I'm going to take Josiah and use him as an example. Here's his student ID, so you can use that. The typical login is going to be the first name and then the MMSD ID number. So here's what I want to avoid. Don't just tell students that your user ID is your first name and your MMSD ID, you know, or your lunch number, however you want to explain that. That works really well, except when students think that their first name in IC, which is where this is pulled from, is a shortened version. Instead of being Timothy, I would say, oh, my first name is Tim. So I type in Tim and my 6-digit lunch code. That would be wrong. We don't want to build frustration. So make sure that students understand that it's their first full name and actually get them a copy of this. So I'm going to just focus on one classroom. We're just going to focus on Mary and her students. You'll notice that they all have the same password. I would urge you to do that. I'm going to click on edit. We actually have a process for actually doing this so that you can get same password for all students in a classroom. You may want to do that also for a grade level. Now, when you're done, generate passwords in a PDF. It will do that, and in a moment, it's going to actually generate the passwords. Oh, it won't because I didn't check the boxes. There, now it's going to generate passwords. See what happens when you read and follow directions? All right, so I'm going to open up this PDF so you can see what it looks like. And this is what will be printed out. So it has the full student, oh, excuse me, I want to make sure, can, Sarah, can you just tell me, can you see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the student name will be on here, the student login or username, and then the password. If you want to put this in some way of sorting, so for instance, if this is, if I do this as a grade level, I'm going to close this. I do this as a grade level instead of just one staff member, all the students will be alphabetical by last name. It will not be sorted via staff member. So here's what I would suggest. If you want to be able to sort students, if you want to be able to highlight and copy usernames and passwords, you need to, let's just do that. I'm going to check all the boxes of the third graders at Alice. We're going to generate the passwords. We're going to open up the PDF. Okay, so here it is. They're no longer sorted by teacher. Here's what I can offer. You can take this and put it into an Excel spreadsheet if you have a Adobe Acrobat suite. May not have that. So if you, I'm going to take a deep breath before I do this, because I want you to understand that this is not an easy thing. If you have trouble doing this, moving this to a spreadsheet, please let me know. I've got someone in the middle school staff who's going to be creating a short video on how to do this. But if you need something for Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, send me the PDFs. I would do it by classroom. Name them the classroom teacher. Peterson, grade 1, Peterson 2, whatever. I will convert them and send them back to you so that you have a spreadsheet. You can then highlight, copy and paste, and put it into, you can give it to a teacher. They can share that with students. They can email that to families. They can email it to the student. However you're communicating one-on-one with students so that they have this. I'm urging that the password be very simple. It could be all A's. It could be the teacher's first initial of their last name. It could be Peterson 1 for the grade level. However it is, it needs to be something that especially our younger students won't have difficulty logging in with. So keep that in mind. If we were to look at FastBridge, I'm going to click back. Actually, it's going to, hang on. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to pick on another school, our friends at Chavez, and we're going to, this is what I wanted to see, grade 3. If we look over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that these students have far more than just a very simple password. So it is a mix of lowercase letters and digits. So understand that if you have the software automatically produce passwords for you, it will give you something like this. If you go bypass that, which is entirely possible, you will be able to, I believe, let's just see, we can check. Yes, here we go. Hit the passwords. Set a single password. You could highlight everyone in your class. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cancel this. Highlight everyone in the class. I'm going to click on this little pencil that's over on the right. I'm going to set a single password. I can set up to 5 characters for these. So it might be the teacher's last name. It could be whatever the address of the street address of the school. So there is a quick way of changing the password so that everyone has a simple login. As we go forward and are more involved with this, I want to assure you that when everyone gets more comfortable with doing this, we should move to these more secure passwords. But getting started right out of the block is something that I think we should probably focus on, making sure that people can actually do the assessment. All right, let's go back here. I'm going to finish up this real quickly. I realize that we're getting late here. Communication is posted on the website. As soon as it's available in Spanish, it will be there. There are multiple letters for that. I'm going to hold on the questions just for a minute because I want to get to this last piece. Those of you who are involved with ANET, which is an assessment coming up in a little over about 6 weeks or so. On Monday, the 29th of, Tuesday, the 29th of September, you'll get an invite for this. It's going to be the technical training for that. It's about 60 minutes. I think we have it set up for 2 o'clock. And you'll get information about how this will work at your building. So some of you are familiar with ANET interim assessments. And this is, I just want to give you a heads up that this is on its way. Finally, before I open it to questions, I'm going to be working on having office hours so that you can just drop in. It will only be focused for elementary school coordinators. So if you have questions, your staff comes to you with questions, you have parents asking you questions that you don't know the answers. Obviously, email both Sarah and myself using FAST, or just send it to us directly. But I will have office hours from 1 to 2 next Tuesday, and I'll send out an invite to everyone for that. There's some excellent resources on the web page. Finally, because I know that we're getting close to the end of time here, and I want to respect that some people will need to leave. My phone number, I'm giving you my personal phone number. In fact, I'm making that larger so you can see it. My personal phone number is 608-566-5490. I give that to you because I believe that it's really important for you to get a sense that you're supported, and that when assessments are going on, sometimes email is too slow, hoping that people on the other end read it. Sometimes, you know, you're like, I need an answer now. You can text me, you can call me, you can do Hangouts, video chat with me. I will answer. I answer a lot of calls, regardless of what area code they are. And so I end up getting all kinds of really good deals on the phone. But the reality is your anxiety level being dropped as much as I can help support you with that is really important. Last thing that I want to do before we kind of sign off and stop recording is just want to kind of check if you can somehow just send me an email or a chat on the phone number. I'm concerned about how everybody's doing. I want to make sure that you are okay, that your staff is okay. I know that there's a lot of stress out there. I appreciate all the work that's gone, that everybody has been doing. So if there's something that I can do to help, please let me know. Let's see, I'm going to open it up for questions, realizing that I don't have all the answers. So, Sarah, any other chats that I missed?
Yes, there are a few. So this great question that we're still having a little trouble with. When setting up passwords, when a user limits to just aReading and aMath for, say, 3rd grade, the student still sees Fast Track Reading and Fast Track Math when they log in. Can we disable those?
Yes, we can. I had just double checking to make sure that that is what we want to do. I believe it is. I will uncheck those boxes. If that is in fact what we want, I'm checking with the team on it. I will uncheck those boxes and they will be gone in 24 hours if I get a thumbs up on it. So we'll get rid of those pieces.
Who is sending out the letters?
The letters are in your hands. The letters are there. Again, I'm sending them, posting them with a Word document so that if your 3rd grade team says, we want to do it this way, you can customize the letter. If you want parents' involvement, you think that it's best, or adult involvement, and you want to send the script, please feel free to do that. These scripts were taken from FastBridge themselves. So it's not, you know, if you change the script, it's kind of changing with the validity of how we're giving it. You know, like if you completely change the script to do things in a different order. So that I would not encourage that. But if you want to share that entire piece or a component, that can be done however your staff are communicating with families, with students. So you could put that in a building email newsletter. You can change that so that it fits what you want. You can have a classroom newsletter, put it in that so that you can share it. I've seen a couple others come through. Oh, Sarah, you want to?
There's a question about opt-outs. Are they allowed for FastBridge?
Great question. So opt-outs, because this is a screener and because we're really focusing on getting this information for improving and making the instruction really meaningful, I'm going to say that for the screeners this year, no. It would be just like any other particular case in which you are giving a classroom screener. Now, the reality of it is, in a virtual setting like this, families, if they choose not to give the assessment, they have not given the assessment. So at this point, there's no need for a family to opt out, send a letter to the principal, etc. Because first of all, really this is not about something that we're opting out. This is not going on the report card, etc. And so families can opt out by not doing the assessment. They will end up choosing not to do that if that's their choice. There may be technical issues. We don't know what this is going to look like until after we're going to be able to kind of look back in October and look at this and say, we noticed these things. So the reality is, at this point, no, we're not really opening up the door to opt-outs. Emily, I saw you had a chat question. I will let you know when those fast tracks are turned off. I will send an email out to everybody. So what else we got?
We got, still want to understand if parents need anything at home to do the tests we're expecting them to do.
So if you choose to involve parents and adults at home in the life of the student, whether that's at childcare, whether that's at home, and they're doing the aReading or aMath, then if you're choosing to involve families, then yes, they would need that script. Can it be done via Zoom in a classroom setting? Yes, it can. So you don't need to involve the families in that.
But I'm asking about the remote, like when you watch the training for remote access, like there's one part where it's like the child needs the paper and then they're going to point and you need to do they need a paper that has content on it or just directions?
That's a great question, and we've been working through that. My suggestion at this point would be, so the point of that is to see if the student understands how a page is oriented. So any page like this can be used as long as there's print on it and that it can be oriented, turned over, and then the student turn it up and turn it to the correct direction. I think it would be pretty difficult for us to send every single family a document that said this side up or something like that, and expecting them to use that in the assessment. So I think they can use any particular paper that the student would recognize as having writing on it, and that it needs to be oriented in a way that is there's a top and a bottom. We could create something to send home, but I don't want to assume that everyone can print. So I don't want that to happen. And if we do this on screen, I mean, if I share a document with you, the computer automatically has that upright. If you're doing it, if I was to hold this up and you tell me which way is up, which way is the top, that gets that's pretty difficult to do. So I would suggest that we use a sheet of paper with writing on at least one side that the student can orient as to top and bottom. Does that help? It's the best that we can do at this point, I think. So I'm going to end the recording. I'm going to hang out here for a while. And so thank you for everyone who's been on here and hung out with me for a long time. I appreciate it. Obviously, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send them our way. I know that not all answers are easy or what you expect, but we're working on it. So thank you for all your work and all your hard effort.